I pulled my sedan up to the curb of Willow Creek Estates, the afternoon sun glinting off its freshly washed hood. The navigation app pinged, confirming I'd reached the pickup spot. I double-checked the passenger's name, Eleanor Harper, though folks around here just called her Ellie. As a full-time student at Riverdale University, I drove Uber on weekends to cover my textbooks and bills, and this suburban ride promised a decent fare. I'd heard whispers about Ellie, the iron-fisted president of the neighborhood's HOA, but I brushed it off. A job's a job, right? As I eased to a stop, I spotted her at the edge of her driveway, a woman in her 50s, designer sunglasses perched on her nose, arms crossed like she was guarding Fort Knox. Her face tightened as I rolled down my window, flashing my practice smile. "Hi, I'm here for Eleanor, your Uber driver," I said, keeping my tone warm. She leaned forward, her eyes narrowing as they scanned my face, lingering just long enough to make my skin prickle. "You're not what I expected," she snapped, her voice sharp as a razor. Without another word, she yanked out her phone and started jabbing at the screen like it owed her money. "Ma'am, I'm your assigned driver," I said, staying calm. "You can check my info on the app, license plate matches and everything." I pointed to my phone, mounted on the dashboard, showing her name and destination. Ellie ignored me, pressing her phone to her ear. "Hello. Yes, this is Eleanor Harper, president of Willow Creek HOA. There's an unauthorized vehicle in our neighborhood and the driver. Well, he doesn't look like he belongs here. Can you send someone to verify his credentials?" She paused, listening, then added, "No, I don't feel safe. I'm calling the police." She hung up, dialed again, and shot me a smug little smile that made my stomach twist. I'd been grinding through college, juggling classes and rideshare gigs to make ends meet. Campus jobs were cutthroat, but driving let me study between pickups. When Ellie's request for a 20-minute airport trip popped up, I thought, saw sweet, that'll cover my electric bill. Saw now, watching her mutter into her phone about a suspicious person, I realized this wasn't just a pickup, it was a setup. 911, "Yes, I need to report a suspicious Indy V-White duel outside my home," she said, loud enough for me to hear. "No, I didn't order an Uber from this person. He's claiming to be my driver, but I don't trust him. He might be posing as a driver to get into our community." My heart started racing. I'd heard stories from other drivers about this kind of thing, but facing it myself? That was a gut punch. "Ma'am," I tried again, keeping my voice steady. "Your name and destination are right here on my app. I'm just doing my job. If you want to cancel, that's fine." Ellie stepped back, her voice climbing. "He's refusing to leave. I've asked him repeatedly." That was a flat-out lie. She hadn't said a word about me leaving. I knew I had to protect myself, so I discreetly hit record on my phone, capturing the app with her details and panning to Ellie, who was now pacing the sidewalk like a caged animal. "This neighborhood has standards," she bellowed, loud enough for the whole block to hear. "We don't let just anyone roll through here. There are procedures, verifications. How'd I know you're not scoping at our homes? You don't look like you belong in Willow Creek." Her words hit like a slap, and I noticed curtains twitching in nearby windows. A couple walking their dog slowed to gawk, and an older guy watering his lawn turned off his hose, staring with a blank expression. "I'm just here to VY to the ride you requested," I said, forcing my voice to stay even. "I can show you my ID and Uber credentials if that helps." Ellie scoffed. "I know how you people are. You get into nice places like this, and next thing you know, our property values tank. I've worked too hard to let that happen." Her words weren't just rude, they were dripping with something uglier, something that made my chest tighten. "Ma'am, I'm a college kid trying to pay my bills," I said. "I don't care about your property values. Want to cancel? I'll wait till you find another ride." That only made her madder. "You're in a stolen car," she shrieked into her phone. "A black sedan, that's not his. He's refusing to leave our private community. I need officers." Saw. 10 minutes later, 2 police cruisers rolled up, lights flashing, but sirens off. A small crowd of neighbors had gathered. Watching like this was the neighborhood's soap opera. Ellie smoothed her designer blouse and marched toward the first officer, a grizzled veteran with gray at his temples. "Thank goodness you're here," she said, her voice dripping with fake relief. This man's been harassing me and won't leave our property. I think he's pretending to be an Uber driver. The older officer approached my car while his younger partner talked to Ellie. I kept my hands on the wheel, speaking calmly. Officer, I'm a registered Uber driver. This woman requested a ride to the airport, but when I got here, she refused to get in and called you. I've got the ride details, my license, insurance, and a recording from when she started making false claims. The officer nodded. License and registration, please. I handed over my documents and Uber certification, mentioning the recording again. As he reviewed them, I heard Ellie's voice rise, talking to the younger officer. I have every right to refuse CRVYC if I'm not comfortable. I don't have to ride with someone who doesn't meet my standards. The older officer handed back my papers. Everything checks out, sir. Let me talk to my partner and the complainant. In my rear VYEW mirror, I saw both officers with Ellie, who was gesturing wildly. The younger one showed her something on his phone, probably my driver profile. Ellie's face turned beet red. I don't care what the app says. I have rights. I don't feel safe with someone like him saw DRIVYing me. Look at him, doesn't belong here. Then a woman from across the street stepped up, phone in hand. I've been recording since she started yelling, she said loudly. She called him the N-word under her breath while pacing. I got on VY-Deo. A few neighbors nodded, and an older woman chimed in. Eleanor's been pulling this since she took over the HOA. Last month, she called security on the Rivera's landscapers for being suspicious. They've been here for years. The older officer's face shifted, and he walked back to me. Sir, I'm sorry for the inconvenience. You've done nothing wrong. We've had complaints about Ms. Harper before. Would you give a statement about this? Of course, I said, still reeling. I just want to do my job without being accused of crimes I didn't commit. What happened next floored me. The younger officer pulled out handcuffs and started reading Ellie her rights. Her jaw dropped, her eyes wide with shock. This is outrageous, she screamed as the cuffs clicked shut. I'm the VY Tim. You can't arrest me for VYing preferences about my driver. The older officer explained, we're taking Ms. Harper in for filing a false police report and public racial harassment. You're recording witness statements, and her own words give us enough EVY Denke. Ellie's face twisted with fury as she was led to the cruiser. I'm the HOA president. I decide who belongs here. I know the mayor, the police chief. A few neighbors clapped as she was loaded into the car, and the woman who'd recorded came to my window. We've been waiting for someone to stand up to her, she said softly. I'm sorry this happened. Not everyone hears like that. 3 weeks later, I got word that Ellie was charged with filing a false police report, a misdemeanor carrying up to a year in jail, and a due law $4,000 fine. A hate crime enhancement was added for the racial motive, potentially doubling the penalties. The DA offered her a plea deal, 6 months probation, mandatory diversity training, 200 hours of community SARE VYC in underserved areas, and a due law $2,500 fine. At her court date, Ellie's usual swagger was gone. In a plain suit, she looked stunned as the judge accepted the deal but threw in a kicker. She was banned from HOA leadership for 5 years. When the gavel fell, her face crumpled. For once, Ellie Harper couldn't talk her way out of the mess she'd made. What do you think, did Ellie deserve her punishment? Or was it too harsh for just VYing preferences? Should neighbors have stepped in sooner to stop her VY? And what would you do if you saw this happening in your community? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button if this story got you fired up, and subscribe for more real-life drama.